Hi everybody, today's video is all about brake servo unit. It's a Girly Mark II-B, and when I took it off the car, because the brakes weren't working that well, when I took it off the car it was leaking. You can see it was leaking brake fluid, and I think probably water as well. I don't think this vent here it was just covered in a sort of washer, and there's no proper filter or anything on it, and I think water had got in there. And so it's in a bit of a state, and as you can see from the picture, it was in pretty dilapidated condition. Anyway, when I pulled it apart, all the seals had gone, just gone hard. The diaphragm was actually intact and was okay, so it was just literally the seals in the various pistons. Taking the servo apart is pretty straightforward. You take off all undo the band, take off the housing. You can pull out the diaphragm and this diaphragm plate, and then all this assembly is in here. There's a seal that's stuck on there. That's the old one, and then you can see there's this sort of plastic bung collar thing, which you can pull out. I managed to, because it's got flats on it, I managed to turn it a bit, and it just came out. I'll keep this all in the right order so I know the assembly order. What was a bit more tricky is getting out the control piston. Control piston comes out of this one. I won't push it in because I won't be able to get it back out again very easily. There's a bung with an O-ring on here, and that's the tricky bit to get out, or one of the tricky bits to get out. What you do have to do is put some lubrication on it, either some brake fluid, or which is what I used, or you can use, I guess you could use silicone lubricant, and then push it in a bit. And then because this is inside, by pushing a screwdriver, not without sharp edges on it, in there, you can then lever it, and it moves out again. So I'll work that backwards and forwards a couple of times. Now there's quite a good description and sort of diagrams, and things like Lotus Mark website has a step-by-step guide on how to get a Mark II-A apart, not a Mark II-B, and it's the same issue there. You've got to move this. You've got to move this bung out. So they suggest putting a piece of bent wire in there and leaving it out, which is what I did do in the end. But you can only get so far with the wire. It doesn't really give you enough leverage to push it out. So what I did is I put the bent wire in, it's like a hook, push that in there, and then I put a screwdriver behind that and pushed it, and then enough, and then it started to stick out there. And again, I had to sort of work it and do it a few times before I could actually get the thing out. Anyway, once it was out, the actual piston itself came out relatively easily. That just almost fell out. So that was sort of disassembly. As you can see, I've cleaned it all up. I bunged up, I made plates to go over here, out of bits of hardboard, like that. And I used bolts to hold those in, and similarly there. And then I bunged up all the other holes where the brake lines go in with bolts, in all the screw threads, and then I sandblasted or bead blasted it with glass beads. After I grit blasted it, to make sure there was no bits of grit or glass beads stuck in the aluminium, I cleaned it all up with a rotary wire brush in the pedestal drill. I also ran taps down all the threads to clean those out, and generally just clean the whole thing up, and then blew the whole thing out with compressed air. One of the things in the piston holes in the bores, there was some dirt and some staining, and I used some swabs, cotton buds, soaked in brake fluid. I drilled a hole in the end of it with a pencil, and you can put the cotton bud in there, and I could get down into the bottoms of the piston holes and clean out all the muck that's down in there. That worked really well actually. It's now time to start reassembling it. I've changed all the seals on the control piston, the primary one and the secondary one. Put those on. Obviously cleaned it all up. I think I'm going to put a little bit of brake grease in here because there's a T-piece that sits in there and wiggles around. I'll do that now. I'm going to use a faithful cotton bud. I'm sure somebody will make some comment about they shed bits of stuff or something, but it's a small risk. There we go. Take off the excess there. And then I'm going to use a bit of brake fluid to lubricate inside here. A bit more. Now it's important that obviously I get this hole lined up so it aligns with the hole through there, because I've got to pass a, as I said, that T-piece in. So there we go, that's it in. Well, I think next what I'll do is I'll assemble the T lever. So I don't want this to pop out, so I'm going to put this on temporarily just to hold that in place, stop it coming out, and then I'll assemble the T lever and all the little poppet valve things. I don't think it will come out, but you never know. And then finally I'll put the vacuum chamber together. There we go. Right, now to assemble the T lever and its little assembly. It's got to go that way. That's got to go that way around in there. These go on here. Spring. So let's get this together. Spring. That's got to go through there. It's not very easy. Let's take that off. Now, does that go in there or does it go this side? A bit hard to tell. This side. There we go, like that. That's one on. That went on quite easily. Then this goes in here, like that. Those valves sit on there. Then I think it's the horseshoe shaped bit next. Let's have a look. Yep, so that goes in there. And locates in that back end of the T. Then this goes in that way. Yep, and then the whole lot screws down. Let's do it up loosely to start with. Let's get the other one in. There we go. Right, I'm just going to protect these parts whilst I assemble the rest of it. Just tape this up. And I've got let's put some bolts in there. Keep it all clean. I'll tape over that one as well. That's where the vent goes. So the next thing is to assemble the vacuum unit. Well, it's been several weeks, actually months, since I reassembled the main body of the servo unit, changed all the seals and what have you. Since then I've cleaned it up and I've lacquered it, and I've also made up this piece here to take a small filter. This one here fits on there like that. You might recall that when the servo unit was in the car, this was missing, and the proprietary filter that comes with it was missing as well. And I think it allowed water to get in, because when I took the diaphragm unit apart, it was full of water on one side and brake fluid on the other. So hopefully this will stop that happening. I did try and buy a filter to fit on here, but they're not readily available, and if you can find them, the only one I did find was nearly £37, which I didn't think was really worth it, where you can pick this sort of thing up for a £5 or so. Anyway, now I've got all the bits laid out, I'm just going to assemble the diaphragm unit and finish it off. I need to get this back in the car because it's making my life difficult. I'm trying to lay out the cabling and the pipe work under the bonnet, and without this in place, it's really hard to finish that. So I need to get it done and finished. Right, the first thing to do is to get this on, and this has got an orientation, so it's got to line up, I think, like that. Yep. So there's a port here, and there's an opening in there, so that needs to go on that way. And there's a gasket to go in between, and then the bolts have got new copper washers that came as part of the kit. I guess it's to give some sort of electrolytic isolation from the steel and the aluminium. But I guess the bolt's steel, but it probably CAD plated. Anyway, we'll see. So the first thing to do is to put the gasket on. Well, the next thing to put on is the diaphragm. We'll put in the diaphragm and the spring and the outer cover. But this outer cover it needs to go on the right way round. I don't know if you can see on the on here, but this has to line up with a rubber elbow that comes out of the actual cover. So I need to put this on first, I think, and then I can line that up. So I'm going to put this rubber thing in. That went in easy enough. It's not very much of a fit. Guess that's right. Just pushes in. I don't know whether that's going to be okay. Seems very loose. You'd think it'd be sort of a snugger fit in there. Maybe it's just a vent, I don't know. Well, I'm going to take the protective cover on I put over. I used this when I cleaned it up, but I thought I'd put it back on again so that nothing got into it in the intervening time between now and reassembly. Little paper gasket I made. And there's all the valves in there. Little poppet valves. Right. This is actually a cork gasket, so it doesn't really need anything. It probably doesn't really need anything on it, but it's better than be safe than sorry. I don't want to be taking this apart again and redoing it. And getting hold of one of these gaskets wouldn't be easy either, just on its own. The overall kit was not cheap. They're getting quite rare, I guess. Now, this can only really go on one way if it's going to. Okay, now let's put the diaphragm in. This needs to, I think when I push that on there, that will orientate it all right. Let's, actually, I might put this in the vise. Let me do that. Well, that's in the vise. It's got wooden jaws on it, so it won't mark the outside casing. So let's get this, needs to go in that way round. This I don't think has got a way round. Just goes in. This has got a way round. So that weight of that's gonna, oh, there's the band. Let's take this off again. Ooh. That tube on. And it'll sort of self-align, I think, once this tube is on. This needs to be at the bottom. That's still there, like that. This has got, this band has got little dimples around its edge. I don't know if you can see those there. And it's, I guess they're supposed to trap the two sides of the casing together. Let's put this in. Actually, I'm going to put some clamps around this. Put another clamp this side. Oh, that's better. That's sort of holding it. Sort of holds the diaphragm rubber in place. Whether this will now fit round. It's closer. No, it needs to be compressed more. Can't. The little nodules on this band aren't touching. I can't get them to bridge either side of the casing. Can't do these up much tighter. Oh, they're on that side. Let's do this band up a bit. Well, I think that's... I'll just take this out and have a look at the other side, I think. Yeah, they're in. They're in. Yeah, you can see those those pips on the side of the band there. At the right side of the lip on the outside housing, the vacuum unit, and they're good. It's a bit hard to show on the camera. So yeah, I think that's got it. Right, I think that's done. Take the clamps off. And there we are. It's on. I think that's about it. Right, the final thing is to put this in. So let's do that, and then it can go back on the car. Easier said than done. Let's bring up a bit of a fight. There we go. That's in. There we go. Ready for the car. There we go, there's the space for it. Oh, it's just got to go in there. Get it the right way up. Well, there it is, installed. All I've got to do now is connect up the lines. I need to remake these lines, and put the brake pipes in, and it's done. There we go. Thanks for watching. If you like what you've seen, don't forget to subscribe and like, and I'll catch you on the next video.